Well, I'm so glad that Carey and I can have a peaceful conversation about conflict.
We're going to try. We're going to try.
So we just, we've been at this in this and on this journey a long time, and conflict is inevitable.
Yeah.
Are there some rules or guidelines you can give us, oh wise sage, as to how to manage it better?
I have a burden for the church, John. And, being a local pastor, I have seen really so many churches blown apart by poor handling of conflict. Much more so than theological disagreement, much more so even than lack of prayer or a lack of a desire to really reach out into the community. I think when a church is in conflict, it's almost impossible to grow. And so how do we handle it poorly? I think several ways. The classic way Christians mishandle conflict is avoiding it. We just completely avoid it. It's like there's a big issue, but nobody's going to talk about it. Another way we talk about it is we talk about the person rather than to the person. So if I'm going to disagree with you, rather than say, hey, John, can we have an honest, maybe painful conversation? I'll go talk to somebody else and say, you wouldn't believe John, and this is what John did. And,
I remember when the Los Angeles Lakers, the NBA, had that great win streak for championships with Kobe and Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. They won, I think, 3 championships and three-peat, and then they had problems. It was like when they were talking to each other, they won championships. When they started talking about each other, everything fell apart.
Yeah, and I think that's true in the church, and we should be the best at it. Because, the way I summarized Jesus' teaching in Matthew 18 was, we need to go direct. If I have a problem with you, I should talk to you. Graceful, and when I do that, it changes the dialogue, because I'm not going to be nearly as nasty. I'm going to be honest, and hopefully I own my piece of the conflict too.
We don't live in a perfect world. None of us are perfect. And even when we try to do biblical solutions, sometimes the process can get messed up by passive-aggressive behavior, insecure behavior. How do you manage to navigate through sometimes verbal assaults? You try to handle things biblically, and people still pow, they punch back, because that's all they know how to do.
Yeah, it is. I try to listen for the truth in whatever a person is saying, because if you're mad enough with me to talk to me, there's probably a kernel of truth, even if it's toxic, or even if maybe things aren't going well at home for you, so you're not actually mad at me or the church.
Right.
You're actually, just projecting some of that. I try to listen, and because I think God corrects us through others. And then secondly, I try to own whatever that was, to say, you know what, John, maybe I was a little bit harsh.
Carey, how important is timing, a cool down or cooling off period sometimes? I think of timing in the grace of God. Timing in the grace of God does heal a lot of conflict.
Yeah, it does. I think you should never handle conflict when you're emotional about it. Sleep on it. Don't react in the moment. So when I'm upset, I try not to act or react for at least 24 hours. Get a good night's sleep, pray about it, and then in the morning I'll go, no, there's still an issue, but then I'll be cool enough to have a conversation with you that's helpful and constructive. So I think if Christians can get conflict right, it really sets the base for a healthy church that can grow.
What role does the Holy Spirit play? We only just have a few seconds. I hate to limit the Spirit of God discussion to just a few seconds, but we're in the reality of television. What role does the Holy Spirit play as far as a convicting or a guiding light in the midst of these kind of awkward moments in relationships?
That's a great question. I think if you can get past your initial anger, and I think the Holy Spirit searches our spirit, and I would say, look at what part of this conflict you own, and then own it. I think that's what the Holy Spirit does.